We're partway through a James series if you're visiting us today, or if you haven't been for a few weeks. And so we've been looking at the book of James, which has been hard, is that a word? Other words people describe? Testing, yeah. Others? Challenge. Someone says something else? Reality. Yeah, reality check, eh? Yeah, it's hard hitting. It doesn't hold any punches. And it's really good for us to have that, isn't it? Yeah. I don't know if you remember a few weeks back, Billy and I, while I was teaching on this is a shape that Billy and I use in our discipleship, but it's a matrix where we talk about nurture being on this line and challenge being on this one. Do you remember I talked about that? That depending on how much nurture you've got or how much challenge you've got, depends on where you're sort of living, whether you're living in kind of boredom with no nurture and challenge, or stress with lots of challenge and no nurture, or whether you're living in high nurture and no challenge, which is cozy and comfortable. But none of those do what we need, which is that we need high nurture and high challenge, which is where we get transformed. Yeah, that's where we're transformed. So it's good to have these hard-hitting punches, but we have to keep couching ourselves in the fact that this is out of love. Yeah. Otherwise we get down on ourselves. Does anyone feel like they've been in a place like that before? Mm-hmm. Where you've just had that challenge and no nurture? Yeah. So, we must make sure, it's important that we're reading this text in light of the fact that he begins the whole letter with that phrase that I talked about in the first sermon, which is James, a servant of God and of the Lord Jesus Christ. So it's first and foremost caveated by this thing that our identity is as the Lord's. Yeah? He's chosen us. He loves us. He's endlessly gracious to us. If our identity is as a child of God, then we can hear these things. Yeah? You with me? Yeah, that's good. Otherwise, it's like someone trying to tell someone off and they're like, well, you're not my dad. Do you know what I mean? Yeah, well, that's what's going on here. Yeah? If we resist to this, it's because we think he's not our dad. Yeah? It's important that for a child of God, then he is the greatest father that could ever exist. He's been a father for a long time. He knows what he's doing. Yeah? So when he gives us these challenges, through James, but when he gives us these challenges, it's out of his heart of love. Speaking of fathers, sorry. So we're looking at the taming of the tongue. The tongue. I went around a number of butchers this week. I wanted to actually have a tongue to show you, but no butchers in Wanganui have tongues. They don't get them. When they get the meat, it's already gone. So I probably should have gone down to the meatworks. There would have been plenty there, no doubt. But I wanted to show you that because Billy had this memory when she was at university. It was uni, wasn't it? And the university chaplain came in and he had a box and he said, inside this box is the most dangerous weapon in the world. Yeah? And then he talked about, and then he opened it and it was the tongue. But it is, isn't it? It is the thing that causes the most damage out of everything. We know that sticks and stones may break our bones, and our bones fix. Yes? The nails do hurt. And sometimes they don't fix. Yeah? There's two things I want to talk about the power of the tongue. The first thing I want to talk about is I'm going to jump forward to the section that's in chapter 5, the last bit that was said, which is chapter 5, verse 12. And this is this is James's paraphrase of Jesus' teaching. Remember, Jesus is his brother, and he's learned these teachings, and he's humbled by this, but he's referring to this phrase which is in Matthew 7. It says, above all, my beloved, do not swear either by heaven or by earth, or by any other oath, but let your yes be yes, and your no be no. Yeah? And what Jesus is teaching in this, and what James is reminding his people about, is that we manipulate with our words, don't we? Yeah? Maybe you don't do that. Maybe you don't have that sin. I have that. I find that I so regularly try to woo people to help me out with something, and I put things in a light context. I don't know if you've been wooed by me in the past. But I'll say, hey, we've got this great event coming up. Do you want to come and help out? And I'll paint it in a great light. And I do that because that's a gift of mine, but also because it's a terrible thing, The nicest people are the most dangerous people. It is difficult to say that, that's right, but we do that, we manipulate with our words, and then, we do it again, like when somebody says to us, did you do this? We say, yes, definitely I did that, because our yes is not, we don't believe our yes is enough, do we? Because actually when we add to our yes, or we add to our no, we're lying. Yeah? Did you get that? Do you realise that's what Jesus is talking about in the Sermon on the Mount? He goes through these things. He talks about murder, he talks about lust, and he talks about lying. That's why it feels, if you don't understand this about lying, that's why this section feels weird in the Sermon on the Mount. Because you're like, why is he talking about swearing? Swearing is not as big a deal as, murdering or, lusting or whatever. He's talking about lying. He's talking about this thing that severs us, that causes damage between people, where we take the truth and we twist it just a little bit. Yes, we know that that's wrong, don't we? We know deep in our core it's wrong, but we do it. That's why he says, let your yes be yes and your no be no. So that's the first thing that I want to talk about with James, is that the tongue is deceitful, is the word he uses. We use it to twist things for our own gain. How often when somebody calls you out and says, you failed on this, or hey, I asked you to do this and you didn't do this, or hey, I saw you doing this thing, or and we add to our no, don't we? Well, yeah, I did, but. Yeah? It's humble, and it's not lying to say, yes, I failed. Or, yes, I did take that without asking. Are you with me? So, the first thing James talks about the tongue is deceitful. The second thing I want to take a longer time on, and it's this thing about that words just are deadly poison, he says. That our tongues are a restless evil, full of deadly poison. With it we bless the Lord and Father, and with it we curse those who are made in the likeness of God. So I want you to think for a moment about words that people have said over you that have shaped you, for good or for ill. Just take a moment. If you pause, just briefly, you'll pick up on something. Yeah? They might have been from years ago. Going to share vulnerably about the story. Can I have a picture on the screen? I don't know if that's possible, so it might not be.
Yeah, still get the time to warm up.
This is me playing football. That's where I started loving it. Terribly, I'm in a West Ham shirt. I'm embarrassed to say that was my godfather's fault. Side story. Anyway, I love football, and I loved football as a kid. Here's this thing: kids are the best observers and the worst interpreters. True? Yeah? They're the best observers. You see everything, see through everything, but we have no skills to interpret. Yeah? So there was an occasion when I was 4 years old, and I remember it vividly. Now, my dad, who I love dearly, and I have a great relationship with, and what I'm about to share with you, I have processed with him, and we've come to good, deep reconciliation about. But this was an occasion where I observed something and misinterpreted it. And what happened is my dad was an evangelist, a traveling evangelist. He went around the country, first of all with a guy called David Watson. I don't know if you know him. He was trained under David Watson, and sometimes was David's warm-up act. And sometimes he spoke for David, and sometimes he went and did his own missions. And my dad's also called David, which is confusing. But anyway, so he would go off to universities mostly and speak to students. My dad had a particular gift of speaking to students and doing Q&As and being put on trial for whether Jesus was real, whether the resurrection was real. My dad was brilliant at this, and he would go away for weeks on end speaking, and people would come to know Jesus literally in their hundreds. I mean, I can tell you stories upon stories of people we bumped into who became Christians through my dad's ministry. One occasion we went off in the middle of nowhere in the Hebridean Islands. We went to this tiny island because we like to go far away from any people as possible when we were family on holiday. You go onto this small ferry, and then you have to get off the ferry into a little motorboat, and then the motorboat takes you to this island which has got, I don't know, maybe 40 people on it or something. It looked like that, probably was more, but as a kid I didn't know. Anyway, we head off to this tiny little cottage we stay on, and we head off down to this secret cove beach. And as we're down walking on this beach, this voice comes from the cliff top, and we look up at this cliff top, and there's this couple, and this guy says, "Are you David Rowe?" We thought, "Oh no," trying to get as far away as possible. And he said, "I became a Christian when you spoke at Manchester University in 1990. He said, and I became a Christian there because I was told, I didn't actually go to Manchester University, but I lived about an hour away from it. But my brother became a Christian 3 years earlier at Newcastle University where you were speaking, and he saw that you were speaking in Manchester and said, you've got to go and hear this guy." So my dad was off doing this amazing evangelistic tour, bringing people into the kingdom. But as a 4-year-old boy, what I saw was my dad wasn't at home. Yeah? And I loved football. And my dad had promised me that when he came back from one of these trips, that he would play football with me, and I could choose the place we were going to play. Now, I had seen this place, because this place that I had seen, which was up on a park that I'd never been to, but I'd seen through the fence, had a real football goal, a full-size football goal, and I wanted to play on that because I'd never played on one before. And I remember it vividly, and on the Saturday morning, my dad must have come home, late at night, probably after midnight or something. He'd been travelling around the country, and I remember coming into his room really early in the morning, so excited to play football with my dad. Anyway, my dad got up graciously, and we got into the car, and we drove, but it was bucketing with rain. Like bucketing with rain. And the place that I had chosen was somewhere that just got churned up really easily. Obviously, there might have been a football game there before or something, but it was all really muddy. And so when we tried to play, you couldn't kick the ball because it just got stuck in the mud. And it was raining so hard that literally after about what to me felt like about 30 seconds, my dad said these words, "Let's just go home." And with those words, it shaped the rest of my childhood. Yeah? I wish my dad had said, "Hey, I'm really sorry, but it's raining." But he probably thought that I'd figured that out. He probably thought that I'd figured out that we couldn't play football here, But he just said, "Let's just go home." So we got back in the car and went home. And I interpreted it that I wasn't good enough for my dad. Yeah? And so I lived the rest of my childhood trying to get my dad's affirmation. I did all sorts of things, seeking his praise. I was probably really annoying. One moment, one word, shake me. Well, another one, okay? This is going to be a down bit, okay? So I remember I was a young teenager, and my auntie had come over from America. My mum's American, and she'd come to visit, and she said to my mum, "I can't tell the difference between, your two boys," which is me and my brother Jesse. My brother Jesse was 2 years younger than me. He was a sort of a beanpole type guy. That's important information for in a minute. And Tante Clara, Auntie Claire said to my mum, I can't tell the difference between the two of them. And my mum said, "Oh yeah, well they look the same in the face and they talk the same, but they're about 4 inches different around the waist." Now, I've later discovered that my mum had difficulties with her sister, and there's all sorts of issues that go on there, and there was all sorts of conversations going on this later that I didn't understand as a whatever-year-old, but I started having an issue about my weight. One word. I misinterpreted. And I didn't want to have an issue with my weight, and I thought, I'm not fat, I don't have that as an issue, but I spent a lot of my brain power going, no, I'm not going to think about it, no, I'm not going to go to the gym, because it doesn't matter what I look like. My identity is in Jesus, I told myself. But I spent a lot of time trying to fight off that word. Anyone had that? Yeah? I've had some other words that have been great. I remember my dad saying to me, "I think you should be a priest." And that, at the time, because I was seeking his affirmation, that meant a lot, right? But actually, there was something deep in there. And I said, "But what is it?" He said, I said, "I haven't, at that time, I said, I haven't heard a clear call from the Lord." And I did later on, but at that time, I said, I hadn't heard one. And he said, "Yeah, but sometimes you can just see when someone's good at it." That shaped me in a good way. Yeah? I felt great about that. I felt confident. When I came to preach, I didn't have as much anxiety as I used to have because my dad thought I was good. Do you know what I mean? Words can shape us in different ways. Don't know what words people have said over you. Perhaps they said you look great in purple. And then every time you go to the shop, you look for the purple tops. Do you know what I mean? The thing is what they do, when people say words, and this is what James is getting at here. James is getting at, he says, oh, actually, the best phrase of it is in the chapter before, where it talks about, in verse 1, and let everyone be quick to listen, slow to speak, slow to anger, for your anger does not produce God's righteousness. Therefore, rid yourself of all sordidness and the rank growth of wickedness. Yeah? This is something that goes on deep inside us. When somebody says something, it triggers something inside us. Are you with me? Yeah? So, anyone can say anything, and then, I might say something to Hayden and say the same thing to Jan, but Hayden will have a different reaction than Jan will. Yes? Because Hayden's different than Jan. Because Hayden has different drivers than Jan. Yeah? So my drivers are achiever drivers. So when my dad said the thing of me, I interpreted that I'm not good enough. Other people might have, thought that their dad doesn't love them, or that I don't know what you might have thought, that maybe you misbehaved in some way. You see what I'm saying? What's going on inside gets triggered by words. I was talking to someone a while ago, someone who had a difficulty, an abusive sexual relationship in their early age, in their early adulthood. And she said that part of what the guy used over her in manipulation was that he used the phrase good girl with her. And that was a phrase that she'd grown up trying to be all the time. Yeah? She'd always tried to be a good girl. And so then when he flung that at her, it triggered her drivers. It's interesting. The point that I think James is making here is that what is going on inside is what comes out. And that's what I think he's talking about with the tongue. There's this part where he says, how great a forest is set ablaze by a small fire. He talks about that bit about when you put bits in horses' mouths. Did you get that bit? A small bit in a horse's mouth can control the whole horse. Yeah, and then he uses this other image, which is used many times in the ancient world, in ancient philosophy, about a rudder and a boat. Did you see that image? A massive boat. In fact, some translators translated that a massive boat in a storm can be changed by a small rudder. I don't think that's actually what it says in the Greek. But it's the point is still the same, is that it's a small rudder can change a massive thing. And he's using that illustration to talk about the tongue. That the tongue is this tiny thing, but it displays everything that's going on inside. Yes? And then he starts talking a bit deeper, and he says, every animal has been controlled, but the tongue can never be controlled. Yes, no one can control the tongue. He says it's a restless evil, and it's set on fire by hell. Should I finish my sermon there? There's no hope there, is there? There's no hope. If we finish it there, it says that the tongue cannot be controlled, and the tongue is what messes everything else up, and the tongue is spoiled by Satan. But he doesn't leave us there. He doesn't. Because what he's talking about is this. He goes on to say, from the same mouth come blessing and curses. My brothers and sisters, this ought not to be so. This is chapter 3, verse 10, now 11. Does a spring pour forth the same opening, both fresh and salty water? Can a fig tree, my brothers and sisters, yield olives? Or a grapevine figs? He's using his brother's image again. Yes? Where Jesus talks about a grapevine cannot produce figs. A good tree cannot produce bad fruit. A bad tree cannot produce good fruit. Yeah? The key here is that the tongue, whilst it is an absolute horror and cannot be controlled, what's inside can be controlled. Because this is what Jesus says. It's what comes out of a man that makes him evil. Close. It's even deeper than that. It's even deeper than that. It's reorientate all of your thinking and all of your feeling. In a few weeks, we're doing this sermon series, Out of Sight, Out of Mind, and we're going to look at the soul. And it's really important when we look at the soul, we look at the parts of the soul, because we have to understand how Jesus understood the soul, and how Jesus explained how we can be transformed at a soul level. But this is what James is talking about. We don't have time to look at that now. But the issue that I want to talk about is that what's going on inside is what comes out. I read a recent Facebook post that talked about someone who was, if you're carrying coffee, right, and someone bumps you and coffee comes out. Yeah, has anyone had that moment? Has anyone been frustrated by that? You don't. Yeah, yeah. But you know, the question in the Facebook post said, "Why did you spill coffee?" And the response is, "Well, because you bumped me." And then the person says, "No, because you had coffee in your cup." Why did you spill coffee? Because you had coffee in your cup. Why does your tongue say horrible things?
You've got a tongue in your mouth.
It's inside, it's horrible. Yeah? Do you know people who speak lovely all the time? I do. I know some people who speak lovely words. You know why they do that? Because they're lovely inside. Yeah? Does that make sense? I'm going to offer two disciplines that Billy and I have used a number of times, that we've used ourselves and we've used with other people, and I'm going to finish with this, which is that the tongue is, as James says, a restless evil, and it is impossible to control. But we can deal with the stuff that's inside, and we can do it by our tongues. Okay, and so there's two exercises that I'm going to offer to you to see if you want to take up this week. The first is that I'm offering, you can take up the discipline to spend 24 hours without saying anything false. Okay? People who know are laughing, you know? That's hard. That's the yes be yes and no be no stuff. Take 24 hours, choose 24 hours this week where you will not say anything that's false. Now, I gave this out as a discipline a couple of years ago to a really smart student who was at Massey University, and she said, I chose that because I thought it would be easy. I'm an introvert, I hardly speak. She said that I thought things. You know what I mean? I thought things that were false, and when they came out of my mouth, I twisted the truth. Yeah? Try it. The reason I'm giving, actually I'll give the second one and then I'll give a little reason. The second one I'm offering is try 24 hours by not saying anything negative. Yeah? Was that a, oh gosh, that's hard. Is that what you said? You know, you can't even say something negative about the weather, okay? You know, so try saying nothing negative. Well, the reason that I give these two things is they're both observational exercises, okay? Which is what James is using in his text. In his text, he's talking about, you know, a carrot and a horse. He's talking about a ship and a rudder. He's talking about things that you can see and that you can observe. And that is a really great thing for us to learn from. How is James putting this? By observational exercise. And it's the same thing that Jesus uses. You know, when Jesus is talking about, if you worry, what does he say? Look at the lilies of the field. He's saying, look, observe them. You know, look at the birds of the air. Just observe them. They don't worry. So observe what happens inside you when you try these. Take 24 hours, make sure you choose the right one. But try to say nothing negative for a whole 24 hours, or alternatively, try 24 hours where you try to say nothing false. Where you're absolutely, totally honest. Okay? There's a face over there. Oh gosh, that's going to be hard. You know,
Caleb, when you work with Asperger's,
sorry?
When you work with Asperger's students, they soon teach you to
That's right.
speak the
They
truth.
do. Yeah, that's true. But at the same time, and I say this with absolute, you know, honesty. I've seen people with Asperger's speak wonderfully graceful things out there. You know, because what's inside them is cultivated goodness. You know, let's not say that, you know, because someone's got a mental disability they can't be lovely. That's cruel of us. Yeah, they can be some of the most lovely people, and actually because of their honesty, they get to it quicker. Yeah, so they can't hide. You know?
Silly me.
But we have our Western way of hiding and covering things. Yeah. So I encourage you to do those two things. And the reason you know, because when you do that, you observe, and what Billy and I have observed when we've done this, is that actually I spend a lot of time using extra words to justify my ill, or extra words to make you think that I'm good, whoever it is that I'm speaking to. Yeah? So if I don't do that, it helps me see that that's what's going on inside. And then, stage 2, you take it in prayer. You say, Lord, what I've seen is all of this. Yeah? And I don't want it. And I know your blood is there for it. I know your grace and your mercy is fresh every morning for my mum. That's what it's there for. It's not there to make us feel guilty, it's there to make us clean. Do you want to be clean? I encourage you, give it a go. 24 hours, don't say anything negative, or 24 hours. What was that one? False, don't say anything false. Cheers, thanks. That's good, just checking your list. Cool. Let's pray. Just the other thing I want to say before we go into communion, Billy's going to lead us in communion now. If there's someone set to let the kids come back in, we could just note them, say it's time for communion. Someone go and just let the youth know already. Just a flag. During communion, or indeed after the service, if anything's triggered anything in you, if you realise that you have similar things like I had, where you've got a word that's said over you that shaped you in a negative way, just come and deal with it. Yeah? Just come and deal with it. There's going to be a couple of people, I can't remember who's on prayer ministry today. David and Brenda. Great. Great. Wonderful. Gracious, lovely people. David's someone who out of his mouth comes wonderful things regularly. Not all the time. Regularly. Yeah, he is an encourager. That's right. It's because he's got beautiful things inside. So do come to David and Brenda and come and receive prayer. You know, Jesus wants to heal these things. Yeah, and he has enough healing for them. We were talking yesterday, we had our